Good morning and welcome to the training. We're going to give 2 minutes for people to be able to come in, and then we will get started. Good morning and welcome to the training. We're going to give about 1 minute and 30 seconds for other folks to join us, and then we will get started right away. Good morning. We're going to give about 30 more seconds, and then we will kick off our parent-guardian training. Good morning and welcome to the parent-guardian training for the Iowa Student First Act Education Savings Account. A couple logistical items before we begin. If you have questions during the training, please enter them into the Q&A Zoom webinar feature at the bottom of your screen. We also have frequently asked questions that are available on the Iowa Department of Education Student First Act ESA webpage. Any questions that are submitted during the webinar will be addressed in updated FAQs on the department's webpage or via the email address used for webinar registration. Please note that during Zoom webinars, there is a difference between Q&A and chat. The chat feature has been disabled and you should not add questions in there. The Q&A feature is available at the bottom of your screen and all questions will be reviewed. I also want to point out that for people whose preference is Spanish, there are Spanish captions available during this meeting. At the bottom of your screen, there's a feature called Show Captions. And if you're interested, you can opt in to receive Spanish language captions. Additionally, we have scheduled a Spanish language parent-guardian training for this Friday, May 26th at 12 noon Central. Okay, those are all the logistical items, so let's get started. Here's the agenda for today's meeting. We're going to cover each of these items in turn. First, we'll take a look at what is an ESA or Education Savings Account. Then we'll talk in particular about Iowa's ESA, the Iowa Student First Act, and the eligibility criteria for parents, guardians, and students. After that, we'll take a look at a timeline of the most important events over the next few weeks. Following that, we'll actually take a look at the application that parents and guardians will be filling out in order to be verified for the program. We'll walk through each step of the process and explain what parents and guardians will need to do in order to submit an application. After that, we'll cover how does Odyssey verify eligibility for the Iowa Student First Act ESA. We'll take a look at how we're working closely with the Iowa state government in order to verify parent, guardian, and student applications. Finally, we'll address how can you use your ESA funds once you've been approved. And then we'll address Odyssey support team. That's our customer support that's available for parents and guardians to help them with the process. So let's get started. First, what is an ESA? An ESA is an acronym for Education Savings Accounts. An ESA holds funds for an eligible student until they are spent on eligible education expenses. Each state that offers ESAs has different rules and guidelines as determined by their law. In Iowa, we have the Iowa Student First Act ESA. For the Iowa Student First Act ESA, funds must first be used to pay accredited non-public school tuition and fees. Once that has happened, any remaining funds can then be used to pay other eligible educational expenses. I'm going to repeat that again because that is an important part of the Iowa Student First Act ESA. All funds must first be used to pay for accredited non-public school tuition and fees, and only after that can any remaining funds be used to pay for other eligible educational expenses. Iowa Student First Act ESA eligibility criteria. For the Iowa Student First Act ESA, the eligibility criteria is as follows. A student must be an Iowa resident. That student must enroll in and attend an Iowa accredited non-public school for the 2023-2024 school year. If the student attended an Iowa accredited non-public school for the previous 2022-2023 school year, an income check will be required. The income check will look at household income to verify that it is at or below 300% of the 2023 federal poverty guidelines, which, for example, is $90,000 for a family of 4. Here's the parent-guardian timeline. These are important dates and events that will happen over the next few weeks. So let's start with the first one that's coming up. Parent-guardian applications open on May 31st, 2023. They'll remain open until they close on June 30, 2023. All applications must be in prior to June 30, 2023. During that time, in the months of May, June, and into July, Odyssey and the state of Iowa will be working together to verify the parent-guardian applications. We'll cover exactly what this looks like in a little bit, but it will mainly be an automated process, and in certain cases, we'll need to do a manual verification. But that verification process will happen and begin to happen as soon as the first applications are submitted on May 31st, 2023. Finally, the last date is July 15th, 2023, which is the first day for approved ESAs to be funded, or it's 30 days after the parent-guardian application has been approved. So these are the 4 important dates for parents and guardians to be aware of. Now let's take a look at the parent-guardian application. Here is the first part of the parent-guardian application. We'll go through each part of the application step by step in order to ensure that you have all the information you need in order to successfully complete the application. Here is the first page that parents and guardians will be shown, the login screen. Here, you'll enter your email and your password and be asked to sign in. The language below the text box states, by signing up, I understand that Odyssey needs to gather and share information about each child for which I seek an ESA and for each claim I make against that child's ESA. I give my consent to Odyssey to gather and share information necessary to implement my child's participation in the ESA program, including with the Iowa Department of Education and with the accredited non-public schools and providers serving my child. I understand my child will not be able to participate in the Students First Act ESA program if I refuse to grant my consent to Odyssey to gather and share necessary information. Once that page has been completed, Parents or guardians then go into the core part of the application. We've divided this up into different sections and we'll go through each one in turn. First, parents and guardians are asked to enter information for their contact. First, they need to provide their legal name, first name, middle name if applicable, and last name. After that, they'll be asked to enter their email address, phone number, and then finally in that section, we ask for preferred language. Please note that English is the preferred language, but for parents preferring another language, Spanish is also available. After that, we then move on to the address information section. We ask parents and guardians to enter their current residential address, including the street address, city, state, and zip code. If a different address was used on the parent or guardian's 2022 Iowa State tax return, parents will be prompted to check a box. If that box is checked, they will then be asked to input the address for the Iowa State tax return for 2022. Finally, household information, which is where parents and guardians are able to add each student for whom an ESA is being requested. Finally, I do want to point out one feature, the update and save feature. This allows parents to start an application, input information, save it, and then return to that information in order to fill out the application. That means that parents will not need to fill out an application in a single sitting if they're unable to. After the student application, we're down greeted with entering student information. First, students need to enter their legal first name and their legal middle name and their last name. After that, the parent or guardian can then input the date of birth for that student. Then parent and guardians are asked to check a box whether or not the student has the same address as that parent or guardian. If the box is left unchecked, that means that the parent or guardian will be prompted to enter the student residential address. Finally, parents are prompted with a question. Did this student attend an Iowa accredited non-public school in the 2022-2023 school year for any grade between kindergarten and 12? Parents can either click yes if that's an accurate statement or no if that's an inaccurate statement. After that, we then move into program eligibility. Here, parents and guardians are prompted to enter either their individual tax identification number or their social security number in order to verify program eligibility. If the parent or guardian filed their 2022 Iowa State tax return in a married status, whether that is jointly or separately, you must include the partner or spouse's information in order to proceed with the application. So here, parents will have a drop-down menu where they can either check an individual tax identification number or a social security number. After that, the parent or guardian is prompted to fill in that identification number. Below, parent or spouse's legal first name can then be entered and their legal last name, followed by the ID type for that parent or guardian, partner, or spouse. Once again, that ID type is similar to the parent or guardian, so it's either a social security number or an ITIN, followed by the identification number. This information is important because it's used to verify Iowa residency and, in some cases, verify income with the Iowa Department of Revenue. Consent and approvals. Here we have a number of statements that we ask each parent or guardian to review and agree to in order to proceed with the application. We'll cover each of these in detail. First up, we have guardianship checks. Here we ask parents to review the following statement. I have the legal authority to request an education savings account for the student in this application. Next, they're prompted to confirm that the student included in this application have not been claimed on another application. After that, parent or guardians are asked to agree to a site release. releasing the state of Iowa and Odyssey to share information to verify the information input in the application. After that, parents and guardians are asked to consent to communication. We've provided 3 separate ways for Odyssey to be able to communicate with parents or guardians. We ask that parents select at least one communication preference in order to proceed. Parent or guardians have the option of opting in to receive text communications, email communications, or phone call communications. As a reminder, parents or guardians must opt into one to proceed, but if they prefer, they can opt into all 3. Finally, parents or guardians are asked to confirm their email and phone number are correct. This will be the email and phone number that was previously input by the parent or guardian on the first page. This is to verify that we have the correct contact information for the parent or guardian. After that, we come to the final page of the application, the parent or guardian acknowledgement. Here, each parent needs to review each statement and check the box to affirm their understanding. Once they've reviewed each statement and checked each box, they then are able to sign the document electronically at the bottom of the page. When they have finished both of those steps, they can click Submit Application when completed. At that point, all the steps for the application for parent or guardian have been completed. Now, the majority of applications are going to be approved through an automatic approval process, which we'll cover in detail what that looks like. This process is designed to make approval simple, straightforward, and easy for parents. Now let's take a look at what application statuses are that parents can expect to receive. The first status that all parent or guardians will receive after successfully submitting an application is submitted. This simply means that the application has been input and has been successfully submitted. After that, parent or guardians may receive an approved status. In this case, we have 2 scenarios in which a parent or guardian would receive an approved status for their student. The first is where a student attended public school in the 2022-2023 school year. In that case, we're able to verify residency through the 2022 Iowa State tax return. In the second scenario, a student attended an Iowa accredited non-public school in 2022-2023. In that case, we were able to verify residency and income eligibility via the 2022 Iowa State tax return. In both cases, the parent or guardian would receive an approved status. In another situation, a parent may receive an ineligible status. A scenario in which that might occur would look like the following. A student attended an Iowa accredited non-public school in 2022-2023, and we were able to verify residency via the 2022 Iowa State tax return, but we were not able to verify income eligibility through the 2022 Iowa State tax return. Now let's take a look at other statuses that may apply to uncommon scenarios where additional documentation and manual review may be required. One of the statuses that parents could expect to see in this process is additional documentation required. This is a status where parents need to be able to upload approved documentation to the Odyssey portal. This scenario will happen in cases where a 2022 Iowa State tax return was not filed, and therefore we were unable to verify the income and residency of the parent and guardian. An additional status that parents may receive is under manual review. In this status, parents have uploaded the documents requested as part of the manual verification process, and they are being reviewed by the Odyssey team and the state of Iowa. One thing that I think we want to emphasize is that the majority of applications will be able to be verified through an automatic approval process. Here, we have a screenshot of exactly what the statuses will look like for parents within the application. If you take a look at your screen on the right-hand side, we have a screenshot of the application platform and what that looks like for parents. Here, all applications will be updated with those responses that we just covered within 30 minutes of submission. Income verification will only be run for households with students who attended an Iowa-accredited non-public school in the previous school year, 2022-2023. If you take a look at the screenshot on your right, you'll see for student number 1 application, we have the status included in the upper right-hand corner of the box. As you can see, that student number 1, as well as students number 2 and 3, have all been submitted. Once the applications have been submitted, they then would move on to the next status. So when a student's eligibility for the ESA has been approved, the status button will then update to approved. If you take a look at the screenshot on the right again, you'll see that the submitted status has now changed to approved. At this point, the parent guardian's next step is not available until July 15th. On July 15th, the parent or guardian who has an approved student would then log back in, select the school that each student plans to attend for the 2023-2024 school year. This is what it will look like when the parent or guardian logs back in on July 15th with an approved student in order to make their selection. Here, the parent or guardian will be prompted to enter for each student, the school, and the grade, and click complete to finish. Now, in cases where the automated process is unable to confirm eligibility, Odyssey will prompt the parent or guardian to upload additional documentation. As we've previously seen, if you look at student number 1 application in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see that the status bar has changed to requires manual review. Once the documents have been uploaded, the Odyssey team will then begin the manual review process. As you can see for student number 2 application, the status has now changed to under manual review. If any additional documentation is required, Odyssey will contact the parent or guardian with the appropriate information for them to provide. How Odyssey verifies eligibility. Odyssey verifies eligibility by a system connection with the Iowa Department of Revenue. As we previously explained, the majority of applications will be able to be automatically approved through this system. This system allows us to determine Iowa residency and, in some cases, income eligibility through each applicant's 2022 Iowa state tax return. In those cases where additional verification may be needed, the Odyssey system will prompt the parent or guardian to upload additional verification documents in order to show Iowa residency and/or income eligibility when relevant. Now we're going to go over what type of documentation would be requested if additional residency verification is needed. So in cases where the automated check for residency is unsuccessful, Odyssey system will ask the parent or guardian to upload additional verification documents for residency. We've provided a list of the examples of residency verification documentation that would be acceptable. The first is a copy of the current Iowa's driver's license. The second is proof of residence, such as a current mortgage, lease, or utility bill, plus one of the following documents: an Iowa voter registration card, a claim of a homestead credit or military tax exemption on a home in Iowa, an active checking or savings account with an Iowa address, or other documents and correspondence initiated during the tax period with an Iowa address. Finally, the last documentation that can be provided is a written and signed narrative from the parent and guardian that includes a stated claim of Iowa residency and related documentation reflecting residency. In cases where additional income verification is needed, the Odyssey system will request the parent or guardian to upload additional verification documents for that. Examples of income verification document are provided below. First, Iowa residents may provide proof of enrollment in an Iowa program with income eligibility below the ESA income threshold. Eligible programs include SNAP, child care assistance, or cash assistance. Documentation includes notice of decision from the Iowa HHS or an image of a SNAP card with a matching parent name. For Iowa residents who are new to the state, a 2022 tax return from another state is acceptable documentation in order to prove income verification. Additionally, they may also provide a recent pay stub for both parents or guardians from their employer and a letter from each employer verifying annual income for the employee. Finally, a written and signed narrative from the parent and guardian, including a stated claim of net income and household size, and related documentation proving net income and/or household size is acceptable. I do want to emphasize that these are in cases where additional income verification or residency verification is needed and will not be required for every single parent-guardian application. School attendance. Schools are required to inform Odyssey if an invoice was submitted for a student who did not attend that school. In this scenario, tuition was billed to Odyssey on July 15th. The school started August 23rd, but the student did not attend. Students are not eligible for an ESA if they do not attend an Iowa accredited non-public school. All ESA funds must be returned by the school for the semester in which the student did not attend. Please note that ESA ineligibility does not absolve an individual from any financial obligations they may have directly entered into with a non-public school or any other vendor. How can I use my ESA funds? ESA funds, as we previously indicated, must first be used to pay accredited non-public school tuition and fees. After the tuition and fees have been paid to an Iowa accredited non-public school, any remaining ESA funds can then be used to pay for other eligible educational expenses. A list of ESA eligible and ineligible expenses has been provided and is available on the Department of Education's ESA webpage. Eligible expenses beyond tuition and fees include Microsoft Office and Adobe products, technology items such as laptops, desktops, and tablets, textbooks, tutoring services, and course materials. As we said before, a complete list of ESA eligible and ineligible expenses is available on the Department of Education's ESA webpage. Ineligible expenses. Example of ineligible expenses are provided below. Any personal bags, such as a backpack, a laptop bag, or a purse, are ineligible, as well as clothing, which includes uniforms and hats. Basic school supplies are ineligible, such as paper, glue, pens, pencils, cleaning supplies. Child care, which includes before and after school care. Camps, whether they're in the summer, winter, holiday, or athletic. All of those are considered ineligible expenses for the Iowa Student First Act ESA. Once again, a list of those eligible and ineligible expenses is available on the Department of Education's website for you to browse. How do I spend my ESA funds? Purchases with ESA funds can only be made through the Odyssey marketplace. Let me reiterate that because that's an important point. Purchases with ESA funds can only be made through the Odyssey Marketplace. Any purchases made outside of the Odyssey Marketplace are ineligible and will not be reimbursed. So, what is the Odyssey Marketplace? The Odyssey Marketplace is a closed marketplace with eligible vendors, products, and service offerings that have been specifically approved for Iowa's Student First Act ESA program. Examples of Odyssey Marketplace vendors include bookstores, computer stores, educational therapies, tutoring services, and local and national vendors. Odyssey Support Team. All parents and guardians can contact Odyssey for technical issues. We have a fantastic support team that has experience working with parents and vendors and schools to help answer their questions and troubleshoot any issues that may come up. We provide service in both English and Spanish via 3 communication channels: phone, chat, and email. Support will become available for all parent and guardians on May 31st, 2023, the day that the parent-guardian application opens. Our support hours are as follows. From Monday through Friday, we provide support from 7 a.m. Central to 9 p.m. Central. Saturday and Sunday, we provide support from 10 a.m. Central to 4 p.m. Central. If you have any questions following the training or you need support for process, please contact the Iowa Department of Education during their regular business hours at their email address, studentsfirst@iowa.gov, or at the phone number 515-954-5652. This slide deck is available on the Iowa Department of Education's Student First Act ESA webpage. Thank you for watching. We're excited to begin the process of administering the Iowa Student First Act ESA. If you have any questions, all are welcome to input them into the Q&A feature below at the bottom of your screen. Other than that, we look forward to working with you, and please feel free, as I said before, to leave additional questions in the Q&A at the bottom. Thank you and have a good day.